Hi guys. So in this lecture, we'll be talking about three topics. We'll be talking about the math methods, and then we'll be talking about character and strength. So let me share um, my screen. So let's start with math methods. So basically, a math class is a Java built-in class. So basically, Java made that class to make it convenient for us to use the most frequently uh, used up calculations and computation. So let's start with the first method. For example, math.max. Like every time you want to compare two or more numbers or more values, instead of using a complicated, a long code, you can use one of the functions or methods provided by Java. So let's start with the mathmax, math.max. So let's assume that we have two variables. So let's say this is 5, and then b is 9. So we would like to know which one is the highest. Is it A or B? Of course, it's obvious that B is the highest, but sometimes we may not know what the values are. So system out print line, we put math.max A comma B. Remember, this method accepts only two values. Either they are integer or double. So the program or the method max will compare A and B and then gives you back or returns the highest, which is B in this case. So if I run the program, it's going to show 9, see, because it is the highest. Okay. It's the same thing for minimum. So if you want to check which one is the lowest, so I run the program, it's going to show me 5 because it's the lowest of the two. Okay. Now what about if I have three numbers? So if I C, 13. So which one is the highest? I cannot put A, B, comma, C because it accepts only two. But what I can do, I can break it down into two statements. So first I will compare A and B or B and C or A and C, any two values, and then save them in a variable. Let me call it high1. So I'm going to put math.max A and B first. So the highest will be saved in this variable high1. And then after that, I can print by comparing the whatever I got in high1 with the third variable that I did not involve, C. So now it's going to give me the highest of the three, which is 13. So as you can see, it shows 13 here. And of course, the same thing for max. Now, what about if I have four numbers, four values? Let's say I have D is 7. So I have four numbers. How can I compare all these four numbers? So using the same approach, so I'm going to have second variable, and I'm going to compare C and D. And the highest will be saved in high 2. And then I can compare high 1 and the high 2. So that's going to give me the highest, which is 13. Now, if I don't use this method, it will take a long time to find out because you have to, there are a lot of scenarios, a lot of possibilities. You have to start by comparing two, and then whatever the highest, you compare to the third one. So this is a long approach. Okay, so this is much easier. Okay, other math method that we use frequently is POW, which stands for power. So every time you have something that involves power, you what no, it's useful to use this type of method. So I'm gonna, for example, let's say 2 to the 5th. If you want to calculate 2 to the 5th, then I have the choice. I can either put 2 times 2 times 2 5 times. So that's one option. Okay, so 2 times 2 5 times, that's 32. Or I can use the method pow, and then I don't have to repeat this. So just put math, that's pow, and put the base 2, comma, and then whatever the exponent is. So that's going to give me 32.0. So the answer is always double. You always add 0.0, 32.0. Okay. What about if I have a radius? For example, I'm trying to calculate the area of a circle, and then I have 5. Radius is 5. So what is the area? So you can say the area of the circle is, and then you use math, that's pow, then what's the base? The base is the radius, and then you put comma 2. Okay, so this is r square. Now you still have to multiply it by pi. Pi we use math. I mean, you can put 3.14, or you can, to be more accurate, you put pi, pi capitalized. So that's going to give me the number pi. Okay, so if I run the program, the area of the circle that has the radius 5 would be 78.5 or 53. Okay, so this is much easier. I can also use the square root of a number using math.sqrt. Okay, so sqrt is if you want, for example, to calculate the square root of 81. So I'm going to put math.sqrt 81. So that's going to give me 9, but the answer is always double, so you're going to get 9.0. See, so that's the square root of 81, or 36. That's going to be 6, and so on. Okay. Another method that we use also is the floor and ceil. So let's have a variable of type double. Let's say e. And then the number is 14.28. So the floor basically, or every number that is decimal, it's between two integers, right? Like 14.28 is between 14 and 15. So the bottom one, that's why they call it floor. So floor is 14 or 14.0. And then the ceil is 15.0. So if I put math, that's floor, and then E, I'm going to have 14.0. So basically, you just always round the number down. You always, regardless what comes after the decimal point, you always round it down. So you get always the lowest one. Okay, but for the ceil, you do exactly the opposite. You round it up. Math.ceil. Okay, so I put E here, and then E here. So for the floor, I'm going to get 14.0. And then for ceil, I'm going to get 15.0. See that? It doesn't really matter. I can change the number, 78. I'm going to still get the same thing, 14.0 for the floor and 15.0 for the ceil. Now, if you want to round it, like the rounding that you learned in math, then we have to use something called math.round. So round, it basically looks at the decimal, which is 7. If it is 5 or higher, then you round it up. If it's less than 5, then you round it down. The solution is this example. So here we have the decimal is 7.7. So that's higher or equal than 5. So it will be automatically rounded up. So if I run the program, I'm going to see 15. See? But if I change it, let's say to 38, then to round it, you are going to get 14, right? So this is like the real rounding. But floor and ceil, we always either we round it down or round it up. Okay, so we have the absolute value. We learned in math that the absolute value is always positive. So if I have, for example, a number that is negative, let's say t, and then I put negative 12.16, for example. So when you use math.abs, which stands for absolute value, it always changes to positive. So if I put t, it's going to change. So sometimes you don't care about the sign, you just care about the value, the absolute value. So you can use this. You can use math.abs. Okay, 12.16. So that's the positive, always positive. If it's already positive, then it's not going to change. All right, so far we learned about max, min, pow, sqrt, square root, floor, ceil, round, abs. Of course, there are more, but many of them are scientific methods that we are not going to use that often. So this is the most frequently, and then also there is one which we use very frequently. It's a random. So as the name implies, basically we use it to get or to generate a random number, if we know the lowest and the highest. So let's say, for example, let's say I have a game, and I want to generate a random number between 1 and 6. Let's say a dice game, okay? A dice game. And I want to generate or simulate the dice game by generating a number between 1 and 6. How can I do that? So let's say, for example, dice. I have 2 dice, okay? So let's say the first one, this is how we generate a random number. First one, we put int. Why? Because we are picking only the integer. Now, if you want to generate a random number that is decimal, then you don't have to use int. And then you put parentheses, math.random, multiply, and then we multiply by something called the range. Range is how many numbers total. So from 1 to 6, if you count them, that's 6 numbers. So we put 6 in here. Okay, so this will give me 6 numbers, but because the default starting point is 0, so if you get 6 numbers, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means you're going to go from 0 to 5. So this will generate a number from 0 to 5. That's 6 numbers total, right? But I don't want to start from 0. I want to start from 1 to 6. So in this case, we have to say, okay, I'm going to start from 1. So this will give you from 1 to 6. Okay? So this is from 1 to 6. So if you don't have any number at the end, that means by default it is 0. Okay? So, but since we're going to start from 1, so 6 numbers is the total that you have. Okay? So what about if I want, let me just put rand here. So let's say I want a random number between, let's say, 3 and 9. How can I do that? Again, there is a formula to use, and that formula is the following. The formula is the range equal the highest. Let me put it right here. So the range, so I want you to remember this formula because we're going to be using it all the time. Range is the highest minus the lowest plus 1. So this range is the one we have next to the multiplication symbol. So in my case, what is the range? I have to calculate that. So 9 minus 3 is what? 6 plus 1, 7. So this is the number I have to put here. And then the starting point is known, it's 3. So this is the statement that's going to generate a random number between 3 and 9, inclusive. That means including 3 and including 9. Okay, another example. What about if I want to generate, I have a game, I want to generate a number between 10 and 25, for example. Okay, So again, I'm going to try to find the range by subtracting the lowest 10 from 25. That's 15 plus 1, 16. So I'm going to put here 16. And the starting point, of course, is 10. So that's how you do it. It's very simple if you use the formula. Sometimes you may not need to use the formula, but sometimes it's easy to be off by one. It's easy to miss it by one. So always use the formula for that. One more example, and then we can move on. So how about if I want to generate a random number between, let's say, and I'm going to use negative number here, so you need to be very careful. So let's say I want to start from negative 5 to plus 5. You know, sometimes you have game, you put between negative 5 and plus 5. How can I do that? So negative 5 plus 5. So I'm going to use the same formula, right? But be careful. Range equals what? The highest, which is, so let me put the highest, minus the lowest plus 1. So the range is, let me plug them in. So 5 is the highest, okay? Now this minus is always there. Now the lowest is negative 5. So I have to be careful here. So this minus, it's always there. This, the second one, it comes with the number. And then plus 1. So now negative and negative becomes positive. So that's 10 plus 1, that's 11. So this means I have 11 numbers here. So that's the number I have to put here, 11. And then I will start by negative 5. See, negative 5 is my first, starting value. Okay, so if you use this formula right here, you will never get it wrong. Okay, right. So one of the programming assignments is about generating the random numbers. So you need to use this formula for that. We're gonna get to that. All right. So this is about the math functions or methods and random number. Now let's move on to another topic, which is the character. How do we work with characters? So a character, as we learned in the first few chapters, is one of the data type. Remember, like we talked about the different data type. We have integer, we have double, we have char, character, and then we have Boolean, either yes or no, or true or false. And then we have other types, okay? So now we're gonna focus on char. So what is char? Char is only one single character. You know, like when you look at your keyboard, it's a bunch of characters here. Some of them are letters, numbers, and special characters. So all of them are called characters. Okay, so we declare it by starting with char, and then let's say I want to put letter here. First one has to be between single quotes, and then I will put that. Remember, it's case sensitive. A uppercase or lowercase, that are two different things. So this is a character, letter A. And that character, as I said, could be anything, even space, that's a character. Or question mark, or exclamation mark, or a digit. As long as it is between, look, there is a difference between this, a difference between the character 9 and the number 9 are totally two different things. Okay, so when you put single quote, it becomes a character. That means when you add them, that you're going to get different things. They are not numbers. Like it's not like 3 plus 4 is 7. That's two different things. Okay, so this is character 9. So let's start with A. Now there is something that you need to understand is for the computer. The computer does not understand what the letters are. The only language the computer understands are numbers. So that's why there is an association between these characters and number. Because if you put A, the computer does not understand what A is. So it has to be converted to a number. So that's why they make an association. They said, okay, instead of calling it A, let's call it 65. So A and 65 are the same thing. B and 66 is the same thing. 67 and C are the same thing, and so on, all the way to Z. Now, when it comes to A, lowercase, of course, it's not 65, it's a different number, 97. So you may ask, where did you get these numbers from? Oh, so I'm going to stop here for a minute and then show you a website where you can get all the numbers and their associated characters. That website, it's called ASCII table. So let me type it here and then I will share my screen. So I'm going to share the screen, you're going to see that's the ASCII table. As you can see, ASCII table, ASCII table. Now, if you go down, you're going to see all the characters. Can you see that? So let's see where the A is located. Can you see A right here? There's A65. So I didn't make up these numbers, okay? There is like an organization that took care of all of this. So they agreed to give a random number, 65 to A. So this way, A and 65 are the same thing. So the computer, when you say 65, it means A. So that will be understood. Okay, and then, and you can see that makes it easy for you to remember them because they are in order. So A65 uppercase, B66, C6, and so on. So Z would be what? Let me see what Z is. So if you go down, so Z is 90. Now what about the lowercase? I'm going to move to the right. Can you see that? So it's 97. So lowercase b is 98. So Z lowercase is 122. Okay? Now what about the number 0, the character 0, not the number 0, character 0, when you put single quote. So it's 48. Can you see it? So the digit 1 is 49, 50, and so on. All right. So you don't have to remember everything. Maybe you have to remember 3 things. Uppercase A, 65. Lowercase a, 97. And maybe 0, the character 0 is 48. Or also maybe space. Space is 32. So 32 and space, empty space is the same thing. Now let's go back to our program. And then let's practice using these characters. So, so a character letter. So now when I print, so pay attention here, when I print A, let's go back to uppercase A, which is 65, remember? So when I print letter, of course, if the data type is char, then of course we're going to see A in the output right here. Did you see that? A. Now, what happened if I want the number associated with it? All what you need to do, you cast it to integer. Basically, you are converting it to the integer part. So now when I run the program, what you're going to see? See 65, because that's the number associated with A. Okay. Now, what about if I put A plus 1? A plus 1. So if I run the program, what you're going to get? You are going to get B. Why? Because what comes after A? One character after A, B. Now, what about if I put a 4? So A, B, C, D, E. So you're going to see E because 4 characters after A is A. So A, E comes after, and so on. Now, again, if you want to use the number associated with E, you just have to have you have to cast it to integer. So now you're going to see the number 69, not the letter A. And then vice versa also. So if I have, for example, a number integer, and then I'm going to put num here, and then I put 72. Okay, 72 is the number. So when you print num, of course, I don't have to put int because it's already int. So if I run the program, it's going to show me 72. All right, so that's normal. Now, what about if I want the character associated with 72? So I just have to put char, cast it to char. That means I need the character that is associated with 72. So of course, if you don't know, just go back to that ASCII table and you can find the characters and the numbers associated with them. So as you can see right here, 72 is H. You go A, B, C, starting from 65. So 72 would be H. Okay. And the same thing right here, you can add and subtract. Okay. So so this is about character. Now there are some methods that make it easy for us to work with a character. Let's say I have a character. Let's say I have a game, and then I want to make sure that the the person or the player is entering a specific character. Like let's say you want them to enter a number, or you want them to enter an alphabet, okay, a letter. How can you check that? Okay, so here, if you go to the PowerPoint slides, it shows all of them and what they mean. So for example here, so let me change this. So let's say here I have the character A, okay, letter A. So I can verify that it is an alphabet and also whether it's a uppercase or not. So I'm going to put here, let's say a letter, what system out print line. If I put letter, and then I'm going to put here, I'm sorry, here I'm going to start with character. Look, is, let's say alphabetic. Look, is alphabetic. If I choose alphabetic, it's going to check, is it yes or no? So if I run the program, is it alphabetic? Let me see here. No, actually, we don't use alphabetic. We use the is digits. Let me see here. For is letter. I'm sorry, is letter. So is letter. That means is this a letter or not? So it's gonna say true. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to run the program here. Oh, I forgot to put the letter in here. I'm sorry. So because you are checking the letter, but you didn't say which one you are checking. So here, the character is letter, and then whatever the letter here, so it's going to say true. Now, what about if I put here a number? Let's say 7. So it's going to say, no, that's not a letter. So you are going to see false because it is not. Now, what about if I put digits? If I put here is digits. So that's going to check if it is a digit. So if you run the program, is it digit? Yes, so it should say true. See that? Okay. Now go back to A. You want to check if it is uppercase or not. You can do that too. So sometimes you want to check if it's uppercase or not. So I can use is uppercase. Is, so all the methods are here. If you are using JCreator, it should show you is alphabet. I'm sorry, is uppercase. See that? Is uppercase. So of course this is uppercase, so it's going to show true. Okay, I have to put this one should be inside the parentheses like this. Okay, so if you run the program, it's going to say is uppercase true? Yes. Now what about if I change it to this? So it's going to say is uppercase? No, it's false. But if I put is lowercase is going to say true this time. Sometimes you can check if it is both, either a letter or digits. You want to check both. You can do that. You can put, for example, here is a letter or digit. Can you see that? Letter or digits. So that means it doesn't matter. It could be either a or a number. Sometimes it doesn't really matter as long as it is one of them. It's not special character. So this is true, as you can see. Even if I change it to a number 3, so it will say true. Why? Because it's either this or this, either letter or digit, as long as it's one of two. Okay. Sometimes you want to change, sometimes you want to change from one case to the other. You can do that using 2 and then either uppercase or lowercase. So for example, I'm going to change it to uppercase. That means change that to uppercase or vice versa. So I have uppercase. Let's say I have lowercase. I want to change it to uppercase. So I can So it's going to make it uppercase. See? It's uppercase. And then also the opposite. Let's say I have F. And then I want to change it to lowercase for whatever reason. So you can do that. Lowercase. Okay. So this method are very, very useful. Sometimes, as I said, you check, make sure that they enter, let's say yes or yes, you know, I mean Y for the game, and then you want to make sure that it is uppercase. So you can do that. Or let's say you want to give them the choice. You're going to say, okay, if they enter lowercase, change it to uppercase, and then compare, make sure it says Y or N for no. So this type of things are very useful, because if you don't have this method, then you're going to have to write a code that, you know, that's kind of longer. Okay, so this is about the math, methods, and the character. So please, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you so much.